Hello everyone, and welcome back to Horrifying Tales. I know many of you use these videos to help you fall asleep, so before you drift off, it would be great if you could leave a comment letting me know where you're listening from. And if you're enjoying the video, don't forget to like and subscribe. Story 1. You're not going to believe me, but I swear this happened. I've never told anyone about it before because, honestly, I'm not sure they'd believe me either. But tonight, I'm going to tell you about the night I walked into that old concert hall and why I've never played the violin again. It all started when I was in a creative slump. I'm a musician, and back then, I was chasing perfection, trying to write a piece of music that would make people feel something real. But no matter how hard I tried, nothing was good enough. That's when I heard about the Silent Symphony, this old abandoned concert hall at the edge of a forgotten town. The locals whispered stories about it, about a ghost that played a violin so hauntingly beautiful it could make you cry. They called her the Silent Violinist. Now, I'm not the kind of person who believes in ghost stories, but I was desperate. I thought maybe if I went there, I'd find some inspiration. So, one evening, I packed up my things and headed to the hall. When I got there, the place looked like something straight out of a horror movie. The building was falling apart, with broken windows and ivy crawling up the walls. The air was heavy, and the silence. It was unsettling. But there was something else, too. Like the place was watching me. I pushed open the heavy doors and they groaned like they hadn't been moved in years. Inside the hall was massive, but everything was covered in dust and shadows. The chandeliers hung crooked, and the rows of seats were torn and rotting. At the center of the stage, under a single beam of moonlight, stood a music stand. It was like it was waiting for someone. I stood there for a while, wondering what I was even doing. That's when I heard it. A single note, soft and sad, floating through the air. I froze. My heart started pounding, and I swear every instinct told me to run. But instead I stepped closer. "Hello?" I called out, my voice shaking. There was no answer, just more music. It was beautiful, but it wasn't normal. It felt like it was pulling me in, like it was reaching inside me and stirring up memories I didn't want to remember. And then I saw her. She stepped out of the shadows, wearing this long black dress that seemed to move on its own. Her face was hidden by a veil, but I could feel her eyes on me. She was holding a violin, and even though it was dark, I could see that it wasn't an ordinary violin. The strings looked alive, like they were moving, almost breathing. "Why have you come here?" she asked. Her voice was soft, but it carried through the entire hall. I wanted to hear your music," I stammered. "I wanted to understand your story." She tilted her head like she was studying me. "My music is for those who are lost," she said. "Tell me, have you lost your way?" I didn't know what to say. I mean, I wasn't lost, right? I was just searching. But the way she looked at me, it was like she already knew everything about me. Maybe, I admitted. She smiled, and it sent a chill down my spine. "Would you give anything to find what you're looking for?" she asked. I hesitated, but then I nodded. "Yes." She held out the violin to me. "Then play." I didn't want to take it. Every part of me was screaming to run, but my hands moved on their own. The moment I touched the violin, I felt this connection, like it was alive. I raised the bow and started to play. And oh, the music. It was like nothing I'd ever heard before. It poured out of me, raw and beautiful, like it had been trapped inside me all along. But then things started to change. My hands, they wouldn't stop. The violin felt heavier, like it was draining me. I tried to pull away, but I couldn't. My vision blurred, and I felt this cold, creeping dread. "What's happening?" I managed to choke out. She stood there, watching me, her face calm. "You're becoming part of the symphony," she said. "Your music will live forever. But you won't." I tried to fight it, but it was no use. The violin had taken over, and the last thing I remember was her turning and walking away, her laughter echoing through the hall. When I woke up, it was morning. The hall was empty, and the violin was gone. I ran out of there as fast as I could. I don't know how long I played or what really happened that night, but when I got back to town, something felt different. People looked at me strangely, like they could sense I'd seen something I shouldn't have. That wasn't the end of it, though. For weeks after, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I'd hear that music, her music, playing in my head. It was like it was stuck there, haunting me. I even started dreaming about her. In my dreams, I'd be back in the concert hall, standing on that stage, unable to move as she played. And the worst part? I wasn't alone. There were others in the audience, shadowy figures watching, as if they were trapped there too. One night, I couldn't take it anymore. I decided to get rid of my violin. I thought maybe, just maybe, if I stopped playing, the music would leave me alone. I took it to a pawn shop in another town and sold it. The man behind the counter gave me a strange look, like he could feel something was wrong with it, but he didn't ask questions. For a while it worked. The dreams stopped, and the music faded. I started to feel like myself again. But then one night, I was walking home late when I heard it. That same haunting melody, drifting through the air. I froze, my heart pounding. It was coming from the park near my house. I don't know why, but I followed it. Maybe I thought I was imagining things, or maybe I just needed to know. When I got to the park, I saw a man sitting on a bench, playing a violin, my violin. He looked up at me, and I'll never forget the look in his eyes. They were empty, hollow, just like hers. He didn't say anything, just kept playing as I stood there, frozen. The music wrapped around me, pulling me closer. I wanted to run, but I couldn't. It was like the music had a hold on me. And then just as suddenly as it started, it stopped. The man lowered the violin, stood up, and walked away, disappearing into the shadows. I never saw him again, but the music, it hasn't left me. It's quieter now, more like a whisper, but it's always there, lurking in the back of my mind. I've tried everything to get rid of it. Therapy, meditation, even moving to a new town. But nothing works. It's like a part of me now, a reminder of what happened that night. So if you ever hear about the Silent Symphony, don't go there. Don't be like me. Some music isn't meant to be heard. And if you ever hear that haunting melody, do yourself a favor. Run.